Hey, good morning and welcome to Breakthrough Walls. I'm Ken Walls and I'm your host. Today, I have an absolutely spectacular, wonderful, supreme guest on by the name of AmyLee Westervelt. You are going to love this woman, so hang with us. And we are back. Good morning, Mr. John Morgan, aka former President Bush. So, hey, I want to bring AmyLee Westervelt on. AmyLee, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Ken. So glad to be here.
I am happy and honored that you're here. AmyLee has become a very good friend of mine. She is she's just amazing, which you guys will see here in just a moment after I let her talk. AmyLee is a client of mine, and she's turned into a dear friend of mine, and I'm honored to have you on the show. So AmyLee, I created this show almost exactly 3 years ago, and it was to help people get unstuck. And I think we've all been there in life where you hit a wall and you don't know how to get through it, or you give up or whatever. And that's what this is about. It's about helping people get unstuck. So let's start with you telling everybody where you were born and raised. And I want to welcome everybody real quick. Ryan Austin and Larry Schneider and Scott Ricard and Michael is in the house. So let's start with where you were born and raised, AmyLee.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in a little town called Pembroke, Massachusetts. It's about 20 minutes south of Plymouth. So that's where I was born, and I moved to Savannah, Georgia after I got married. And then, the Army took us all over the country. And then when I was able to retire my husband and he resigned his commission, we came back to Savannah. So that's where we are
now. Nice.
Yeah.
Look at this. We have Miss Iowa watching.
Hi, Miss
Abby
Iowa.
Kern. She's going to be on the show this week. So all right. Well, that was a nice little quick trip through your life, but let's go a little deeper. Let's talk about, you were born and raised, and you're shaking your leg up and down.
I have ADD.
You're so funny.
Sorry. Okay.
You're so funny. So, talk about what was it like for you growing up as a child? I mean, were you an only child? Did you have siblings? What was it like for you growing up?
So I was one of those kids who was lucky enough to have one of those ever expanding family trees. Both of my parents were married before they had my brother and I, and both of my parents got married again after they got divorced. So we have a really super fun tree. I have older half sisters. I have a stepsister. It's all very crazy. But my brother and I are the only two products of my parents' marriage, I guess. And yeah, I think he's 35. So yeah, that's us. That's us.
Okay. And what was it like for you growing up in 20 minutes south of Plymouth?
What was it like? Yeah, it was interesting. It was definitely, I lived a lot of my life feeling very different from other kids. I was interested in completely different things than they were. When I was in high school, I got really good grades. When I was in high school, one of the teachers, the sociology teacher, asked my mom to come in for parent conferences. And my mom was like, oh gosh, what's wrong? AmyLee never gets in trouble. And so apparently the sociology teacher said, my mom's like, what did she do? And she's like, well, it's not that, her grades are great, but all the other kids are talking about who's dating who and what's for lunch. And AmyLee is talking about gender apartheid in Afghanistan. And this was pre 9/11, so we didn't know anything about the Taliban or anything, as a country yet. But yeah, I've just always been kind of a quirky kid, I guess. I've always looked at things differently. And so growing up, I never felt like I was really, I don't know, I guess I never really felt like I fit in. I never really felt like I was like all the other kids. And obviously I look at that now and I'm like, oh my goodness, like, thank goodness, because, I didn't peak in high school. And so it really shaped who I was and who I am. And I don't think I would change it, because it really did make a difference in who I became, I think.
So, I like to think, I don't like to think, it's a theory of mine that I think it's not just my theory, but that there's always some kind of a person or an event, something that kind of shapes who we become or puts us on the trajectory of who we become as adults, something as a child. When I talk about that, is there anything that like comes to mind that like you were like, yeah, well, I had this one teacher that or it was a parent or a friend or sibling, or is there anybody that comes to mind that, or any situation that like kind of pushed you in the direction that you went as an adult?
It's funny you say that, because I think that one of the real big catalysts in my life for becoming who I am is my father. And the reason that matters is because my father is actually a narcissist. And so I grew up with a lot of narcissistic abuse. But that being said, it also really shaped who I became, because my father was so into metaphysics and existentiality and all these things that I would try to study those things in order to please him, in order to make him like me, in order to be relevant. And obviously those things have found their own way into my life, in their own way, since I don't actually have contact with him anymore. But I have to say that a lot of that came from his interest in those things, and what his motives were behind those interests, speculation could tell us. I really don't know. But I know that that's really where I got my start with that. That's where, because being academic and knowing things and being able to be at a party and have him point at me and be like, AmyLee, what's the capital of this? And what's this? And what's that? And talk about your idea of whatever, when I was in the first grade, my father made some kind of arrangement with the kindergarten teachers for me to go down at recess and sing for them. And I sang this song called Sad Movies, which I guess is from like the 40s, and another song, I Told Every Little Star. And I was like his dancing bear. And so the more that I educated myself and the more that I learned about my world and really just kind of fast forward my childhood, the more that he would dote on me and give me attention. So honestly, that really had a lot to do with it.
Wow. So when you were growing up, I mean, how long, you said your parents got divorced. How long were they married?
My parents were married for 10 years, but they got divorced when I was 7.
Okay. So you were 7 years old, so what I mean, did you go with your mom? Did you go?
Yeah. My mom ended up getting remarried, and my father left and went to, wherever he went. We saw him every other weekend, and Tuesdays and every other weekend. So yeah. So it would be my day to go to my dad's today.
Okay. So yeah, I guess it would. So and how did that I came from a divorced home too, so I know a little bit about it. Did that impact you in any, like at 7 years old and your parents are getting a divorce and you're kind of being now pulled apart as a family? Did that have any kind of an impact on you, do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I was very fortunate. I have an incredible stepdad. He jumped right into the picture and he became a really great father figure for me. But it was definitely hard. My father was a mobile DJ. So he was doing like clubs and stuff. And after, when I got into my teens, another way that I found his favor was that I would do gigs with him, and he'd get paid all this money. I would lug the equipment, I'd do the gig, and he'd throw me $100 or something like that. But the reason I bring that up is because growing up, you know, my father had us every other weekend. And so when he had his turn to have us, it was his Saturday night. He wanted to go out. He had a girlfriend. So we would go, my brother and I would go to whoever's house was available to babysit us. And so we grew up kind of every weekend. We were, you know, guess where you're going tonight? Sometimes it was my big sister. She's 10 years older than me. Sometimes it was, you know, just random friends of my father's. Usually they were females. Occasionally they were males. But I never knew, you know, and it was only that one night, and then he'd take us home the next day. But yeah, it was a very different existence. And the other thing too, is because he was a narcissist. And by the way, I've never discussed any of this publicly, certainly not on every channel.
Wow.
But the other thing that really, you know, because he was a narcissist, he really worked hard to try to pit me against my mother. And so he, you know, I look back now at situations and things that I was told about the way things were. And I realize now that that's not how they were at all. That I can't go back and rehab those moments where I thought that, wow, you know, my mom did this to my dad. And it's kind of painful. You know, you kind of got to just be like, it was for a purpose. It had a, you know, it had a reason. But it, you know, it's definitely, if you really dig into it, it can really be a traumatic thought, I guess.
Wow. So do you so at 7 years old, you you said your dad moved away, but he was still close enough that you saw him every other weekend.
He just moved.
Okay.
He moved into an apartment. Yeah.
Gotcha. So then, and you're in school, and I can remember, as a kid, I can remember, you know, I had the friends whose parents were married forever, and you knew they were going to be married forever. And I can remember feeling this sense of jealousy. I don't know if it was maybe that. Did you experience some of that, like where you felt like, you know?
I definitely feel like up until I was 7, I was in dance class, I was in drama, I was in the variety shows, I was doing all these things, and then turned 7, and all of a sudden I wasn't one of the popular kids. I wasn't hanging out with the cool girls anymore. It was like, I just kind of got like kicked off the ship. I was only the second kid in my elementary school to have parents who were divorced. And
Wow.
it was really traumatic. You know, the teachers were very like aware of it, and I didn't even really understand. And like they were more aware of it than I was, and there was just a lot of drama around it. But you know, looking back, I mean, I don't even know how she did it as long as she did, the way he was.
Wow. So you ended up going to, like, did you stay in the same house your entire childhood? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's
I lived
awesome.
in the same house from when I was 3 until I got married. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So you went to high school and all of that. Did you go to college?
I did. I went to Roger Williams University for my first year. I had a scholarship there, and then I didn't want to go back. So I moved back home, and I commuted to Bridgewater State College, which is now Bridgewater State University. And that's where I graduated from.
And that's in Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. And so what was your degree in?
I have an undergraduate degree in communication studies, and then I went back and got my post-baccalaureate certificate in elementary education.
So you were going to be a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you did?
Yes and no. First of all, so after I got my communications degree, I thought I wanted to be a wedding planner. So like I manifested this incredible job in Boston working on this cruise ship dinner cruise thing. I know, Olga, I know. I hear you say that sometimes in Clubhouse. Yes. So I used to, okay, so you know it then. I used to work for Odyssey Cruises and I thought it was my dream job, and wedding planning was the worst thing ever. I hadn't even planned my own wedding yet. And it was like the like worst vicarious situation you could imagine. And I hated it. I don't know if I got fired or if they just were like, we'll just give you a good reference, and like patted me on the back. And and then I was like, I used to play, school with my stuffed animals when I was little. So maybe I'll go do this teacher thing. And I did love education. So I went back and got that certificate, and I went and did that. And I worked in, an Islamic school. I worked in an Islamic school for 4th grade and 5th graders.
Wow.
And it was a very harrowing experience. There was one day where this little boy ran across the road after a ball. He wasn't in my class. He was in 3rd grade. And so when I went and worked at this school, I had just gotten divorced, right? Because I was married before, and I had a Lebanese last name. So when I worked at this school, I had this Lebanese last name. Well, somehow they found out that I was actually Jewish. And yeah, so anyway, so this little boy ran across the street after this ball, and I called him back and I made him stand by the fence. The next day I got pulled into the principal's office. And the principal said that they didn't want me speaking to the children that weren't in my class because the parents were afraid that I was imparting my Jewish ideals onto them.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Mm-hmm. Hey,
wow.
Yeah. Joe. So needless to say, that was not a good fit. And I ended up leaving that school. And then after that,
they thought that you were imparting Jewish beliefs into the little Islamic kids.
Yeah.
Well, that's not nice. Why would you do that?
I know I shouldn't have. How dare I try to keep him from getting hit by a car, right? Like, I don't know. Jihad thing or something. I don't know. But anyway, so then, so I did that. And then I ended up getting another job in the education sector, working as the assistant to the president and consulting firm. So I worked there for a little while. I feel this is your life. And I worked in Lexington, Mass. And that was awesome because it was like, like the whole April morning thing, the Lexington green and all that stuff. Yes, I'm such a heathen, Charles. How'd you know?
You're a cult leader.
I am a cult leader. I heard that's the cool thing to do. Yes, exactly. And whatever. I mean, they were very nice until then. They just. I get it. They were threatened. It's okay. I mean, they did build a mosque right next to the synagogue in the most Jewish town in all of Massachusetts. So, I mean, I don't know. They must have, Anyway.
Wow.
So, so then I worked for the assistant to the president, and
look at what Olga says.
Olga, we're like twins.
Oh, wow.
Oh, thanks, Mitch. I'm glad to have you as part of my cult. And so then I worked for the assistant to the president, and I ended up, so I was, divorced at that time. And then
go back to, hold it. Let's talk. You got married.
Yeah, I did.
So did you get married young?
I got married so I blocked it out kind of. I think I was.
Let's remove that block right now. Look, we're breaking through some walls. Yes.
Yay. Okay. All right. I married the guy that I dated in college. We lived on the same street, and the class that we met, the professor's name was Street. So it was meant to be you, right? Shut up, Joe.
Yeah.
He is a lovely guy. He was my best friend, but there wasn't anything there romantically. But
you lived on the same street as kids or in college?
We lived on the same street all growing up, but we were in 2 different towns on the same street. So we didn't meet until we were in college. Nice kid, very nice kid, but we had very different, ideals, and very different dreams. He wanted to live in California and be around the movies, and I wanted to live in Savannah and live in Mayberry. And so we were just very, very different. And so I guess we got married maybe 2008. Does that sound right? Maybe. Yeah.
I wasn't there. I didn't get an invitation to the wedding, so I'm not sure.
Yeah. And well, not many people did, but anyway, we were together for like 9 months, and then we figured out that wasn't a thing. So we separated, but we didn't get divorced because we didn't have the money, right? Like, and
Yeah.
we didn't hate each other. We didn't need to be. We had no reason to get divorced, but we
Right.
weren't together. He ended up getting a new girlfriend, and I ended up meeting my now husband online, and he lived in Savannah. And so I moved to Savannah and got married, had a bunch of babies. Yeah. So yeah.
It's, okay. That is not, we're not doing this. We are not doing this, AmyLee. And you need to go over to the comments and go up and click private chat so you can't see the comments. It's distracting you.
Okay. All right.
I want you to there. I'll handle the comments. If I don't like them, I won't put them on screen. You can see them then. But so you ended up meeting your husband, Will.
Mm-hmm.
You said online?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did a search for this Savannah zip code, and I put it in on a dating website. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you saw that he was in the military.
Yeah, but you know this story. I know you know this story.
No, I don't.
I saw his profile and he said, you know, I have 5 kids and I love them. If you have kids, I'll love them too. And I just thought that was really sweet. I knew he lived out of town. I figured, you know, nothing was going to happen. So I just messaged him and just said, hey, I just want you to know, I think that's really great. You're probably a great dad. And it turns out he was online. And then we started talking, and he was into the same things I was in. He was studying Hebrew. I was studying Hebrew. I found out, you know, he told me he was a ranger. And so I thought that meant that he was a park ranger. But it turns out he was an army ranger. I mean, I knew he was an army ranger, but I thought it was some kind of park. I don't know. I don't know what it was.
Right.
And so he was a little bit taken aback by that. And so we ended up deciding to meet. And I had Patriots Day weekend off because Boston, and usually we would go to the Marathon Monday Red Sox game. So I had, I don't even know what that's in reference to. Star Wars or Star Trek? I don't know.
He wants to know. Yeah. There's a debate globally, like who's never mind. Let's carry on.
Is that one of those non-distracting comments you put up?
Like, do you like Star Wars or Star Trek better? Like you know.
Oh, I'm definitely Star Wars. Yeah. Star Trek just it creeps me out.
Yeah.
So, although my friend Anthony, who was on Star Trek, would probably kill me for saying that. But anyway, so then we decided to, I said, I have Patriots Day weekend off. I'd love to come visit you. He's like, well, I won't be in Savannah. And I was like, oh. He's like, you can come to Pittsburgh. I'm going to be visiting my best friend and my sister. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So he was on block leave. So I got on a plane, met this guy, could have totally been a catfish. And I remember I got off the plane. I got off the plane and he was texting me like, what car rental? And I didn't want to tell him because I didn't want him waiting there because I wanted to have the first look, So I just said, I don't know. I'll have to look it up, whatever, lied through my teeth. And I came down the escalator, and I'm not kidding you. He was standing at the bottom. We locked eyes, and I literally have never seen another man since. Like, I'm not even joking. It was like instantly. It was just, he was standing there with his big, they call it the tick, which is that big brown backpack they give the Rangers. And he was just standing there, and he was everything. And just to full disclosure, before I met Will, it wasn't that I didn't know my sexuality, but I just never really had a real true attraction to a person, guy or girl, right? Like I just never really, it was just never really there, maybe because of abuse, maybe who knows, whatever. With him, no question whatsoever. It was like, oh, hello, the rest of my life. And yeah, so we spent a great weekend together, and he ended up, he was deploying. And so he deployed to Afghanistan, and he was there, and I sent him I sent him lots of packages, and he said the people that were in his unit got so pissed because they'd be like, mail call, and there'd be like 15 boxes, and they're all thinking they're getting things. And nope, Westervelt, 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 Westervelt.
Wow.
But, you know, when you're a young girl and you have a little job and you don't have any kids, like, what are you going to do? You just spoil your boyfriend who's in Afghanistan. And that was his 11th deployment. And he got to come home early. He commissioned.
Wow.
And we got married and we made a bunch of kids, and here we are.
How many kids?
We have 5 children together.
So there are 10 children in total.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
10.
Yeah. And then we have 2 au pairs that have come from both Brazil and Mexico. So if you count them, it's 12. It's so fun, though.
Hold it. And what's an au pair is to help you take care of the children, right?
Yeah. So we have one that came from Mexico and one that came from Brazil, and they both stayed for a year, and we stay in touch with them. One lives in actually one's babysitting tonight.
Oh.
Yeah.
Everybody is saying, wow, wow, wow.
Yeah.
So, okay. You have literally a football team.
Yeah. Something like that.
Very close. That's unbelievable. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So how's it so quiet there?
I threatened my children with the wrath of God if they came out of their rooms.
Oh.
Will took the baby to therapy. He has special needs, so he took him over to occupational therapy, and my other kids are playing quietly upstairs with their Game Boys.
Wow. So you okay, so at some point in your adult life, after meeting Will, and obviously being a very charged relationship, I mean, you have 5 kids, so together. So you were you working this whole time? What were you doing? I mean,
I was tutoring on the side, and I was, couponing and all that. But he was in the military and he wanted to be the breadwinner. And so age range of the kids, my oldest is 8, my youngest is 18 months. And so we were living in Alaska. We got stationed there. When he commissioned, he became an officer in the military intelligence, and we moved to Fairbanks, Alaska. It was -60. You couldn't
hold it.
Yeah.
This is okay. So I'm still at the escalator in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so how soon did y'all get, he went to Afghanistan and he came back, and then you got married. How long, what was the time span?
Yeah, so funny story about that. So remember I told you about my first husband and how we didn't have any real need to get divorced. Well, suddenly we had a real need to get divorced. And in Massachusetts, and this is another story I don't tell everybody. Have I had a glass of wine or something? This must just be like a truth serum show, right? But if you're not going to tell all on the breaking down walls, then what are you going to do? Sorry, though. Right. So we decided, to get divorced, and in Massachusetts, it takes 90 days to have your divorce be finalized. And then I think it takes another 90. I don't remember. There's some name for it. But long story short, my divorce was final November 20th. I flew back to Boston. You have to take 3 days. Hi, Jennifer. You have to take 3 days. I love your ads, by the way. I see them all the time. They're so sharp. And
she's a badass.
You did a great job. Yeah. And so it takes 3 days to get a marriage license. So I flew home on the 20th because I was staying with him.
From where?
From Savannah. I was staying with him in Savannah.
Okay.
I was pregnant. So I was pregnant. So I was staying in Savannah.
And you weren't even divorced?
No. No. So I was staying in Savannah. So I flew home to Boston. Okay. Flew home to Boston, and I went to the marriage registrars on the day that my divorce was final. I got my marriage license, waited the 3 days. It was Thanksgiving that Thursday. The first day that I was legally allowed to get married was when I married Will. It was Black Friday on in 2011. So yeah, I literally, the moment I could get divorced, it was crazy.
You got married on Black Friday?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Were they running some kind of a special promo offer or?
No, it's one of my favorite days until they ruined it with all their wokeness. But like back in the day when it used to be like Friday morning, I'd go with my sister and my mom at like 5 a.m. Now it's like Black Monday. I mean, it's ridiculous.
You said they ruined it.
Sorry, am I getting too tell-all-y?
Did you say they ruined it with all their wokeness?
Yeah.
I love it. I freaking love it. So, okay, you got married. You had a biscuit in the microwave.
We actually don't own a microwave, but yes.
A bun in the oven. It's just So you got married. You got married. Literally, oh my God, that's unbelievable. Okay, so and Jennifer loves
Will, though, he's worth it, don't you think?
Yeah, oh, Will's awesome. So and you were living in Savannah at the time.
Yeah, so he was stationed at Hunter, and he was commissioning. He was graduating from college and commissioning as an officer. And then we got stationed in Alaska. So we ended up, it was negative 65 degrees in Fairbanks. You could literally pour water in the air and it would evaporate. I have a video of it. It really does happen.
Wow.
Yeah, it was terrible. Dark all the time, no shopping. I mean, except for like Walmart. But like, it was like a food desert. It was just no. I mean, I love you guys.
Was there a synagogue though?
Yes and no. It was Reform, and the rabbi only visited once a year. And guess what they called themselves?
I don't know.
The Frozen Chosen. You like that?
That is freaking awesome.
The ark at the synagogue, right, was like a TV stand that you like open and like the Torah was in it. Yeah. Oh yeah. True story.
That is so funny. Oh my gosh. So how long were you in Alaska?
Well, that's the story I'm going to tell. So this part of the story will go fast because I tell this part all the time. So it's negative 65 degrees. I was miserable. We were 7,000 miles from home.
Look what Jen said.
I knew it. Hello, Jen. Really? Can you not tell? Most people, so most people think that Alaska is like over here, but Alaska is like, well, yeah, Anchorage, but not Fairbanks, Scott. Fairbanks is like where you like dreams go to die. And so Alaska is like up to Canada and then over to Alaska. It's closer to Russia. Like when Sarah Palin said she could see Russia from her house, she was serious, you guys. Like it's that close. So anyway, so we're there. It's negative 65 degrees, miserable. And I just was done. I was like, I waited my whole life to meet this guy. He's my, oh, nice. Awesome. He's my, my best friend. I want to spend my time with him. This is stupid. So I was like, dude, I can't do this anymore. And he's like, okay, well, you need to figure out how to make the money in order for us to not have to do this anymore. And he gave me the amount. And I was like, okay. Had no idea how I was going to do that. No idea whatsoever. But I remembered that I had studied The Secret a lot, and so I went back to that. And then I ended up watching that Bob Proctor thing from the 80s, that hokey You Were Born Rich. Yeah. If you guys haven't watched it, it is phenomenal. If you can get over the cable knit sweaters and the Canadian accents, I love you Canadians, mean it. But if you can get over that, it is one of the most powerful pieces of television ever. And it's 10 hours and you should just binge it for the rest of your life. So I watched it. And one of the things that it talked about was, what do you really want? And he kept saying it over again. What do you really want? And I was like, you know what, Bob? You know what? I have no friggin' clue. I don't know. I don't know what I want. And so I started to really think about what that looked like. And the more that I dismantled it, the more I realized that I really genuinely had no idea. I knew what I didn't want. I knew generally that I wanted good things, but I didn't really know what those were. And that's when dream design was born. And so I found that being an empath and I'm highly sensitive, dream design is something that a lot of people struggle with, right? So anyway, I I decided what I wanted. I made this whole list and I ended up getting into this network marketing company. We're going to fly through this because they're not getting any airtime. Got into this network marketing company, made, a really big team, didn't recruit anybody, didn't cold message anybody. It just kind of was organic. It was manifestation, ended up making ridiculous money doing it. And my husband came to me and goes, okay, we made this amount of money, but imagine if we made 20,000 a month. And I looked at him and I'm like, why would you say that? Like, we were doing so good. We were so there. And like, why would you like keep raising the bar? And he's like, but what if we did? And I was like, okay, fine. So we tried to make 20,000. Then we ended up making 60,000. Then we were at 100,000. And so then he resigned his commission in the Army. We came home. We were in this network marketing company. Life was great. And then things started to get a little fishy, and we were no longer aligned on the ethics, morals, kind of. And I had to make a decision.
In the network marketing company.
Yeah.
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 And you were, where were you at this point? Still
back in Savannah. Yeah, no, this was here. I had bought this house. I was living the dream, but the ethics, it was not a good fit anymore. And it was right before Hanukkah. Went all through the house. No, it was right before Hanukkah. And I swear I heard this little voice that was like, you gotta get rid of this. You gotta put this on the altar. I was like, what now? What? It was like, you got to put this on the altar. But the good news is, you know how this story goes, right? Like, just trust me. And I was like, really? Like right before Hanukkah, like now with nothing to back us up. And yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, do that. So I was like, okay, but I know the story about the lamb in the thicket. So I just waited for the lamb, and I ended up making my own coaching business, doing, coaching empaths and highly sensitives, because that's what I was and that's what I related to. And long story short, God provided. I got out of the network marketing company. They were flabbergasted. People do not, Mitch knows, people do not leave a company making $30,000 a month. They just don't do that, right? Like there's got to be a reason. But I did. And I started over with nothing. And, that first Hanukkah was a little scary, but it wasn't, because when we needed the money, when the bill was due, it was there. When we needed something, it was there. And I ended up building this really robust coaching business, working with empaths and highly sensitives. And then one day I was like, dream design. This is something that empaths and highly sensitives struggle with. This is something that's really hard for them. What if I created a whole niche just around figuring out what you want? And I realized the two things that population really struggled with was overwhelm and guilt. Yeah. I don't know what I want, and I don't even begin to know how to sit down and think about it. And who the hell am I to want anything? I'm stuck, but I'm not starving. Yes, exactly. Joe gets it. I'm stuck, but I'm not starving, right? Like it's not so bad. And that's where people get stuck. And so now I have created this whole, as Russell Brunson would say, blue ocean, right? Where I serve these people on a whole new level where they're realizing, wait a second, the thing that stopped me from getting what I wanted wasn't money. It wasn't time. It wasn't luck. It was me knowing what it was. And so being able to make that shift and helping people see those limiting beliefs that are keeping them from that trajectory, it is like, I mean, I've never done drugs, but it seems like it would be a really, really high form of crack.
A high form of crack?
Yeah, something that you could get really addicted to the high from.
Right. Right. Well, it looks like Mitch is in your tribe.
Mm-hmm.
That's really awesome. So you were in the network marketing deal doing 30 grand a month.
That was at the end. Yeah. At one point I was making about, I think it was consistently between 70 and 100,000 a month.
Wow. And you left that. You just, I'm out.
Yeah. Bye. Wow. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, and you live in a ginormous house. Rumor has it. I mean, you have 10 kids, for the love of God. You need a big house.
Yeah, but some of them are grown up now. We have one in the Army, one's in rehab, one's in college, right? And then the other two. So there's really only two that come, and visit. And then we got my 5, so it's 7. I am a crack coach. Thank you, Dan. I'm going to put that in my title, AmyLee, crack coach.
Right. So you've been, how long have you been on the coaching journey now?
So 2018 is when I left. So I guess like in September it'll be 3 years. But I was like, I was unofficially coaching the whole time I was in network marketing because that's what I really wanted. I joined that company. Mostly I joined because I wanted to be a visionary, right? No, I don't have adult children. That's my husband's kids. My child is 8. But thank you. You're so sweet, Jill. You don't look old enough to have kids either, FYI.
That, that's my wife, right?
Really, Ken? How long have we hung out that you don't think I know your wife's name?
All right. Well, hey, thanks for stopping by.
If I can't give you crap, who can? Cindy comments. You know that the little like empath OCD in me is going, what do those all say?
So the you started this in 2018, and I know you're killing it. You're also known as you're also known at, don't get my wife laughing at your stuff either, or Megan. So, or Jen. All right, enough with the LOLs. So you got into this, and I know that you also do you teach people how to build Facebook groups too?
Yeah, so I'm a Facebook power admin. So I'm recognized by Facebook as someone who's really good at building groups. It's something that I do on the peripheral. I have a program called Sensitive and Successful. I do it specifically for empaths, creatives, and intuitives. So people who have a hard time feeling like they don't want to show up online because they don't want to be too salesy, or they don't necessarily feel comfortable sharing. So those are my people. But yeah, Facebook groups is one of my superpowers.
It is. And you're really, really, really good. So talk about a couple of things. Like I said, enough with the LOLs. And like, if you saw the comments, you'd be like, everybody is typing LOL or laughing my butt off and all this stuff. Like, my wife says, and I love this, you can see that it shows you radiate this amazing energy. I've noted that about you from the very beginning when I first met you, is you're just radiant and glowing this amazing energy. And I love that about you. Ryan says that he's laughing. I knew we were going to have fun. So, I like to talk about things that are holding people back. And I know there's no universal, like this is the single thing. But I'd like to hear your opinion about like, what are some of the things that you think are holding people back in life from achieving, number one, financial success. Most people will never, and I mean the majority of people on this planet will never know what it's like to make $100,000 in a month, right? You know that, I know that, but for the people who, and I think that they justify, tell me if you think I'm right, people make up these justifications for not having to ever try to make $100,000 a month. We justify it like, well, that's for somebody else, not me. I'm very happy making $70,000 a year or whatever, yada, yada, yada. Right. See, I just spoke some Yiddish. Look, Jen says, yes, you are radiating.
I promise there are no buns in the oven. Okay. Just so don't start that rumor. That is not that kind of radiating. No glow. Glowless.
Right. Look, my wife even says it. So what do you think stops people from really making it in life?
Genuinely at this time.
He's rude. I shouldn't have put that up.
You anywhere. Oh my gosh. Genuinely at this time in life, I think it's overwhelm. I do. I think that, you look at in the book, Procrastinating on Purpose, the guy talks about how we used to, in 1 year in medieval times, we would have, we have the amount of thoughts and concerns in 1 day that we used to have in 1 year during medieval times. We have a disease of decision fatigue. There's so many choices. I mean, online, you can go, if you look up sneakers, there's 250,000 pairs, right? So we have been trained to shut down from that overwhelm, and social media does a really good job of keeping us overwhelmed. Even in our peripheral vision on Facebook, there's ads, there's other things to click on. You go in a group and they're like, hey, I know you're here, but do you want to look at 5 other things that have absolutely nothing to do with this, but use the same keyword? I mean, it's no wonder that people are just absolutely inundated. So it really starts with figuring out what you want. And sometimes you kind of got to get quiet and do that, right? Like, I think that it's really important that you sit down before you look at what's available. And that's the difference between dream design, right? So I want you to consider it like this. If you go to a really fancy restaurant, you sit down at the chef's table, okay? You might say, they'll come out at the end of the meal and they'll say, hey, what would you like for dessert? And you might look at them and say, well, I really like chocolate. Chocolate's great. And I like strawberries. Do you have anything with strawberries? No strawberries? Okay, how about cherry? You like cherry? Great. And maybe something like flourless. I really like that really rich detail. And you give him a couple of ideas and he goes off in the kitchen and he brings you back this thing that you designed. And he puts it down in front of you and you take a bite and it's like, oh my God, this is everything I ever wanted, right? As opposed to when you go to a restaurant and they've got that little cart full of all the stale pieces of cake that are like sitting on the cart. And you go, yeah, chocolate's available. I'll take the chocolate. And it looks like maybe it has a filling. And you put it down in front of you and you take a bite and you taste the mint julep. And you're like, I don't even like mint. And it's like stale. And it's not what you wanted at all, right? That's what happens when we look at what's available for what to pick from. But when we design it, we think of what we want, and then we let the universe and our reticular activating system show us what we're looking for. It's like going to the want ads and seeing what jobs are available versus designing your dream job and then letting it show up in your life. So that's what I think is the big problem, is that people don't really know what they want. And then they wonder why what's already there doesn't suit them, because it wasn't designed for them. It was designed for somebody else's needs. It was designed for somebody else's wants. It's not catered to your design.
So I love what Nicole brings up here. For me, I don't know what I want, so I don't even move. I don't move. And that, I think, is the majority of a lot of people. Yeah. They don't know what they want, so they just, and you said it a little bit ago, so they, where I'm at is it's not that bad. I mean, it's
our favorite book that you recommended to me, the one Beyond Positive Thinking, one of the things it says is when we don't make a choice, we don't have to be wrong, right? Like if we don't make a choice, then we're not wrong. Then we get to stay stuck, but we get to stay on the right side of stuck, we think. And then we turn around one day and it's the end of our life and we're wondering what we did with it. But at least we weren't wrong.
Oh my God, that's brilliant. Say that again so the people in the back can hear it.
Yeah. So we spend our whole lives trying so hard not to be wrong. And then we get to the end of our life and we haven't done anything, but at least we weren't wrong.
That's brilliant. Not making a choice is making a choice.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're making a choice. Megan says, so true, decision fatigue. That's why so many entrepreneurs quit. I have such a hard time with that word. Entrepreneurs quit because they don't trust delegation or can't afford it, gets, spinning too many plates, missing profitable decisions because they're, amen. I agree with that. Do you agree?
I do. And I would take it a step further and say they also tend to abdicate instead of delegating. They think they're delegating, but they take the whole task and hand it off to somebody else without, any oversight. And then they wonder why they get it back and it's not what they wanted. And so when people do that, when they abdicate instead of delegating, they end up turning themselves off and giving themselves a bad taste for delegation forever. So it's much better. I love what you said. It's much better. And I think, I actually wrote an article about the difference between delegation and abdication. And it's amazing how much better results you get when again, back to that knowing what you want and having an expectation.
Yeah. So what is, My wife's typing out what you said. I love that. So, Nicole says, I need choices first.
You think you do. You've been conditioned to think that you need choices first. But what did people do before the internet? What did people do before catalogs? They invented the airplane, right? They invented the television. I mean, you've been conditioned to think that you need somebody else to give you ideas, but you have an incredible imagination that will build exactly what you need, exactly what you desire, exactly what your soul vision is craving. But the problem is that you are secretly, you don't even realize that you're settling for whatever iteration of that society has created. And it might be because it was the most economical. It might be because it was cheap to build. It might be because it was in alignment with what that person designed. But if you truly give yourself a moment and just sit down and say, what do I really want? Get away from your computer, get away from your tablet, get away from your phone, and just start writing it down. That's why they talk about free association writing, right? Because it comes right out of your mind.
Yep. So just start writing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love that.
How do you
There's a lot of great comments. Charles, they invented making 10 children and then began farming. Right. Right. So, you know, there was a and I talk about this a lot on the show that, you know, I had a back when my wife and I opened up our first office, we had some employees and they were all getting paid. We weren't. I had a guy show up at my office and repossess my vehicle in front of my employees. It was a terrible day. And I can remember feeling like this is the end of my life. It's over. Like, it's never going to get worse than this. This is it. And you know, for the people who, because 2020 there was a lot of pain that people went through, and unfortunately there were a lot of suicides. Suicides went through the roof, and there's still a lot of residual pain left over. And so for the people who maybe their electric's going to be shut off, or they're going through, you know, they had a repossession, or they're you know, they're going through it right now. They're barely hanging on. If they called you and said, I've tried everything, I don't know what to do, I can't feed my kids, I can't whatever. I mean, what would you say to that person to help them get through to the next moment?
Well, you know, I'm going to be a little controversial here, and I'm going to say that I don't think that it gets that bad for most people. I mean, does it get bad? Absolutely. But I think that we are so conditioned to think of like a worst case scenario, and 99% of the time, that never really comes to fruition. Like, we live in these doomsday ideas of like, what happens if I can't feed my kids? There are so many people on Facebook that are walking around making, Facebooking around making posts. If you ever have a problem where you can't feed your kids, send me a message. I'll send you money, no problem. There are food pantries. There are, I know people who have plenty of money that over the summer, when they were doing free lunches for the schools, they would go up and get lunch for their kids. Like, there are resources. Now, here's the problem. Sometimes when we get to that really low point, we have to come to terms with our dignity, and our dignity is what takes the hit. And so I would say that most people are at the dignity phase, but not the starvation phase. But we read the dignity phase as the starvation phase. And the other thing I would say is that our circumstances don't dictate who we are. And this was something that I really had to learn. I really had to learn when we were going through it, and we had some issues that happened with different things. I felt like those were dings on my character, that those were things that made me less than. And I realized that those were my circumstances. Those things didn't define me. So I think a lot of what people are going through is shame and guilt and how did I let this happen? You didn't let this happen. We went through a national event, call it what you will. It absolutely, whether you believe it's real or not, or as bad as it was or not, it shook this country in really bad ways and in really good ways and in really powerful ways. But understanding that there is nothing wrong with asking for help, asking for a little bit, exactly, dignity versus pride, right? Asking for, a leg up, asking for things, it comes back around. You're going to have the opportunity to help other people down the road. But I think that's really what that disconnect is, that people, yes, are people committing suicide? Absolutely. That's more, I think, of a mental health issue. And that has a whole different host of solutions. But I think in terms of struggling, there are people that are just opening their arms, their hearts, and their wallets to help those people. And I think that if you look for those resources, if you're genuinely in that place and you look for those resources, when you get over that little initial icky, hey, can I have, or can you help me? After that, it's over. It's like Grant Cardone on Undercover Billionaire. He has these uncomfortable moments where he's like, hey, can I come stay in your trailer? But 5 minutes later, he's sleeping there and it's fine. So we really, we have to swallow our pride. And we have to do what needs to be done in that moment. And that's what separates the resiliency from, the victimhood. Yes, we all go through it. We all have struggles, but it's what we do with those struggles and how we are able to respond, AKA our responsibility, that makes the difference.
That was a brilliant answer. So what, first off, I want to pop your website up here, gratitudeandglamour.com. You help a lot of people. And I'm honored to have you in my life and call you a client and a friend. And you're amazing. And I love everything that you're doing. You're killing it. You're helping so many people. You really are. You and I met on Clubhouse and I was like, wow, this woman is just like, every time you speak, it's like, boom, just these nuggets of wisdom come out. So Charles said, I thought that was my website. If women knew what birth felt like up front, they would never do it. But we forget the minute they put that baby in our arms, the pain fades away. It's true. It's true. Charles is right. The pandemic shook the world. The people of the world had to decide how they were going to deal with it. Amen. I agree. So, AmyLee, what are some parting words of wisdom you would leave with anybody going through struggles right now that needs to have a breakthrough? What would you say? My wife absolutely loves you.
Aw, thanks, Jill.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, Jill, you're going to be meeting with AmyLee to talk about her copy on her website, by the way.
Oh, okay.
She doesn't know that. She just found out. So
you and me both, kid.
Do what?
I said you and me both, kid.
Yeah. So, so what words of wisdom? What if somebody is stuck right now, they don't know which direction to go?
Yeah.
What would you say?
Yeah, so I have this thing called the Dream Design Blueprint, and I'll give you the first step of the blueprint. You guys can certainly join my Facebook community. It's called Dream Building Entrepreneurs if you want to learn more. But the first step of everything that you're trying to create in your life is a feeling. And so you need to think about, what are the feelings you're trying to create? If you think about anything you've ever wanted, anything you've ever desired, like, let's, for example, for the gentleman out there, like, you guys might be into cars. I know Joe is into cars. If you think about like a Maserati or, an Aston Martin or whatever, why do you want that car? You want that car because it has, I don't know, because when you pull up to the valet, people are going to look at you and it's going to be amazing. And, it's all about the feeling. It's about the feeling that you cultivate when you have this thing. But the good news is you get to feel the feeling now. So think about what that feeling is and then move into alignment with that feeling. As you start to pour that feeling into your body, the universe is going to go, oh, you like that feeling? Here, and have more of that. And so then you're going to find more of that feeling. And the more that you have that feeling, then you can move through the rest of the dream design blueprint into thoughts and affirmations and tangible outcomes. So that's the first thing. What do you even want to feel? Joy, happiness, abundance, excitement. Start feeling those feelings now. You know what they feel like. You've had them before. Feel them now. See what you saw, hear what you heard, feel what you felt, feel them now.
Wow. And join your community. What's it called again?
Dream Building Entrepreneurs.
Every time you say it, your internet say it one more time.
Dream Building Entrepreneurs.
I wonder if I can get somebody in the comments to type that in for us. So the Facebook group is called Dream Building Entrepreneurs.
I'll type it right here.
That won't work.
Well, it will for you. You'll see it.
Yeah, but I can't do anything about it. Oh, hold it.
Yes, you can. You can highlight it and make it a banner.
I got it. I got it. I teach this, remember?
I do remember.
I'm a coach.
And one of the people you teach it to.
I know. I'm gonna put it on my personal page as well, if I can get that pulled up here. So
that's better than a brownie.
So I don't know about that. The brownies are pretty dang good.
They are. I finally finished my last one. I was like,
so there it is. I put it facebook.com groups, Unstoppable Dreaming. I love that. And I'm a member of the group, and you're very, very, very active in there. And I absolutely love it. It's amazing. And my wife, she's reiterating, start feeling the feelings you want now.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Not much is better than the brownies.
Ken's jokes are pretty good too. The Kenergy definitely works for me.
The Kenergy. AmyLee came up with that, and I really want to start using that hashtag. Jill, we need to start using that hashtag Kenergy. I love that. So, I'm so, and we have a couple of new people on here. Susan Whitehurst, who is amazing. Her husband Weldon just went through a liver transplant, so we all need to
Susan, the town you grew up in is named for my husband's family. Is that crazy?
Which is right down the road from us.
Yeah. My husband's family founded Westerville, Ohio.
Westerville, Ohio. Been there a million times. Yep. Wow. That is insane. So, AmyLee, you're amazing. I freaking adore you. I think everybody that knows you and gets to know you, we all feel the same. You're amazing, and you're changing the world. You're changing the world. So thank you for who you are and what you're doing. And everybody go to Gratitude and Glamour and check out AmyLee, or go to AmyLeeWestervelt.com. But where's the best place to follow you, by the way, on social?
Probably follow me on Instagram. I mean, you can find, I have a Facebook page, like you made me make a fan page. So I have that. It's Dream Design Coach. So like facebook.com/Dream Design Coach. Yeah. Thanks, Larry.
Yes, we are praying for, and Tanisha, I think she's a fan.
She is a fan. I'm a fan too, so it works out.
Yeah.
She's my clubhouse mom.
She what?
She's my clubhouse mom.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know Tanisha. She's amazing. All right. Well, listen, thank you for being here and sharing your wisdom and your love and your joy and your light with everybody. And everybody make sure you go to the website and follow AmyLee everywhere that you possibly can. And AmyLee, I'm going to end this. So thank you. Don't hang up. Don't leave.
Okay, I'm not hanging.
Stay with
I'm
me.
not leaving.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Bye.
See you guys later.